Quinn and Fred attempt to cover up their plan to fake a romance to win a contest. Fred's estranged wife, Beatrice, arrives and causes a dramatic scene, accusing Fred of cheating. While Beatrice is escorted away, Fred suffers a sudden seizure, leaving Quinn trapped in the room with him and unable to get help. Was Fred going to be all right? What caused this sudden seizure? And with the door locked and Beatrice seemingly gone, how would they get help? Will Quinn be able to help Fred during this medical emergency? What caused Fred's seizure? Will Beatrice return to cause more trouble?
"You could have died, you know," explained Quinn, still in full doctor mode. "I know," answered Fred, embarrassed both by the scene Quinn had just witnessed with his ex-wife Beatrice and for the medical aid Quinn had then had to administer to Fred. "Hit your head or choked. You're lucky I was here," Quinn continued. Quinn carefully slid a pillow underneath Fred's head as he convalesced on the bed. "You're stabilized, at least for now," she said. "How long have you been having these seizures? This could be something serious." Fred, thankful to be alive, could no longer hide his condition from this brilliant neurologist. He was ashamed. Fred exhaled. It was time for him to come clean with her. "You might have heard that I was in the service for a while," he began, speaking slowly. "Our truck hit a roadside bomb. I was lucky I survived. The rest of them didn't." Fred's eyes glossed over with tears, remembering his lost friends. "I'm so sorry," said Quinn, placing her hand over his. She couldn't believe that she actually felt some sympathy for this man she had spent so much time despising. Apparently, there was a lot she didn't know. "There's a lot he doesn't know about me either, though," she thought. Quinn looked down at her hand on top of Fred's and tried desperately to convince herself that she was just showing a compassionate bedside manner as his doctor. Nothing more. "So, the seizure was related to an injury?" she asked. "I was in a coma after the accident," Fred sighed. "For 3 years. When I woke up, there was Beatrice, introducing me to my 3-year-old son. We'd been dating for a little while, and then I'd come home that Christmas on leave, then went back, and then the accident. At least, that's what she said. I don't remember any of it, to be very honest." "Do you think Beatrice may have been lying to you?" Quinn said gently. "She showed me pictures, and she doted on me the whole time I was in the hospital. I had no reason to believe that she was lying, at least not at the time. And then there was Jake. He was so cute. I was overcome. My son. I had a son. I didn't know how badly I'd wanted one until I saw that little boy for the first time." Quinn smiled. "I understand that for sure. Becoming a mother was the greatest joy I've ever known in my life." "You're pretty good at it too, Doctor. As afraid as I was, that first time Jake ran away and we found him with you, your first impulse was to check on him and see what he needed." Quinn laughed, remembering that day, which now felt like a lifetime ago. "He needed dumplings. The boy can certainly put away his food." Fred also laughed. "No arguments there. He loves those more than almost anything." The laughter subsided as Quinn and Fred sat there quietly, perhaps really seeing each other for the first time. "Fred," began Quinn, "we need to talk about these seizures of yours. You need to come into the hospital to get a full neurological workup." If only I still worked at the hospital. "Do you understand how important it is that nobody knows about this? I'm a CEO. I have responsibilities that affect businesses all over the globe. And if the stockholders should get wind of the fact that their CEO is sick or weak or unable to fulfill his duties, it could seriously affect stock markets all over the world." Quinn saw that Fred was truly afraid of anyone finding out about his health. "You see, Mr. Smith," she said, "there's this thing called doctor-patient confidentiality. If you were my patient, I wouldn't be legally allowed to tell anyone anything about your medical condition. And in fact, we could take steps to arrange that your medical records are sealed." I had to do something similar for a member of the royal family back in London. We have ways. If I was your patient? Repeated Fred, understanding where Quinn was going with this. And I couldn't be your patient unless you had a job at the hospital. Hey, you're pretty smart, teased Quinn. If you had me reinstated at the hospital, then yes, you would be my patient, and I would be bound by confidentiality. Fred's tone was a bit more serious. I can have you reinstated, of course, but... But what? Asked Quinn. Hear me out, said Fred carefully. Uh-oh, said Quinn, drawing back for a moment and wondering what on earth this man was about to propose. You have to pretend to be my fiancé. Quinn stood up, shocked. Your what? My fiancé. Think about it. This solves a lot of problems for both of us. Jake could use a nanny, and you have Nora. The 3 kids get along really very well. Denny and Sammy need a father. Jake needs a mother who treats him well, unlike Beatrice. There's no end to the money I have, so nobody would ever want for anything. My penthouse is big enough that all 5 of you could still have your own bedrooms. Quinn folded her arms and listened as Fred continued with his completely ludicrous idea. It gives you round-the-clock access to me, which as my doctor makes sense given whatever is going on with these seizures. You being my fiancé is the cover story of why you need to be constantly around me. You'll be well compensated, of course. And then there's Beatrice. If you and I were suddenly getting married, then I'd have legal recourse against her. And I could force her to leave me, and Jake, and all of us, alone. No judge anywhere in the country would find in favor of her if she were harassing a man who had clearly moved on with his life. Quinn began to pace back and forth, allowing Fred's plan to sink in. Less than 24 hours ago, she'd been cursing this man. Now, it felt in the weirdest way that he was making some kind of sense with this off-the-wall scheme. So, Fred Smith, are you asking me to marry you? Quinn's eyes were wide and questioning. Not exactly, he answered. I'm asking you to pretend to be my fiancé. Until we figure out this medical condition and until we get Beatrice to finally settle down and remove herself from the picture. But what about the children? Quinn pointed out. How will they react when our fake relationship suddenly breaks up? And now they've lost a family.
Quinn stared at Fred, her mind racing. The more she thought about it, the more this bizarre proposition seemed to offer some intriguing possibilities. Could this be a way to finally escape her own suffocatingly perfect life and find some real adventure? And what about Jake? He was a wonderful boy, and he deserved a loving home, but the risks were enormous. Could she truly play this dangerous game, pretending to be someone she wasn't, all for the sake of a man she barely knew? And what would happen when this temporary arrangement inevitably came to an end?
Hey, I'm Jenny. If you're wondering what happens next, download the Pocket FM app now and listen to the exciting episodes of A Mother's Battle.